Hello everybody, you're welcome back again to the Reggae Appreciation Society. It goes without saying that reggae is among the biggest genres on the planet. But if there's one part of jazz green earth that resonates the heaviest with reggae's most popular themes, like resistance to Babylon and neo-colonialism, Africa is definitely it. Reggae artists have always been celebrated like royalty on the continent and have always been treated like such when they visit. The likes of Bob Marley, U-Roy, down to current icons like Richie Spice, all had wonderful experiences on their visits to talk about. But interestingly, Jimmy Cliff, who was reggae's first global superstar and I believe the first to visit the motherland, had an extremely traumatic introduction when he went on tour of Nigeria, which was then under the jackboots of a military dictator. Jimmy Cliff would, in the twinkle of an eye, go from a dream homecoming on a rollicking multi-country tour to getting ambushed in his hotel room by security agents and abducted to undergo a terrifying 1,000-kilometer journey to stand trial for an offense that he knew nothing about. It would be one of the most traumatic experiences of Jimmy Cliff's life and inspired him to write a song about the whole incident. And ironically, the track became one of his biggest hits in Africa. Let's take a look at how Jimmy Cliff was framed and arrested during his first trip to Africa. By June 1974, Jimmy Cliff was arguably reggae's biggest name. He had starred in the classic movie The Harder They Come, which had taken reggae to the four corners of the globe with its rich imagery of urban Jamaica and an awesome riveting soundtrack. He had by then left Island Records and pitched his tent at EMI, under which he would put out his album Unlimited, that was followed by the masterpiece House of Exile, a compilation that sold well globally but was spectacularly successful in Africa, selling millions of records and would make him insanely popular on the continent. In fact, it's safe to say that he practically enjoyed a religious following, and it didn't take long for EMI Records to organize a world tour that would include a couple of dates in Africa and would mark his first visits to the motherland by June in that year. And he was scheduled to first land in Zambia, where his fan base was legendary and where he received a massive hero's welcome. After playing his shows in that country, his next stop was Nigeria, where he was simply a megastar. And when he landed at the airport in the capital city of Lagos, he was greeted by an unbelievably massive crowd of several thousand people, the kind of welcome party that was normally reserved for the likes of the Beatles or Elvis Presley, with fans lining the streets from the airport all the way to his hotel. And Jimmy was extremely thrilled and heavily inspired, and vowed to give his Nigerian fans a show that they would never forget. His first concert was at National Stadium, where he rocked the house and worked the massive crowd into a frenzy. In the audience that evening was Nigerian Afrobeat legend Fela Kuti, who after the concert would invite Jimmy to come and hang with him at his famous commune called the Kalakuta Republic. So after his show in Lagos, he and his band flew 1,000 kilometers to the ancient city of Kano, where he would deliver a masterclass to his fans. At that concert, he famously whipped out a spliff and lit it while performing, to the utmost delight of his audience. So the next stop was the neighboring city of Kaduna, a city where he also had a fanatical fan base. His tour of Nigeria was going very well, drawing record-breaking crowds and seeing Jimmy in his full flow. So he was checked into his hotel room to get some rest and recharge his batteries in time for his next show, when he suddenly heard a knock at the door. And when he opened it, he saw the scary sight of several angry policemen who told him immediately that he had a warrant for his arrest. At first, Jimmy thought it had something to do with smoking herb on the stage at the previous concert, or maybe he's hanging out with Fela Kuti, who was then totally hated by the military government. And when he asked them what the warrant was for, the squad leader told him that it was in connection to getting booked and paid for a show in Nigeria some months before, but never turning up. The police would grab Jimmy like a common criminal and took him straight to the airport, where he was put on a Boeing 747 and flown 1,000 kilometers back to Lagos and driven straight to prison, where he was forced into a ghastly little prison cell that was filled to the brim with 10 times more people than it was designed for. And the news of his arrest would spread like wildfire, as the entire country would be stunned and traumatized by the information that their much awaited and beloved reggae star Jimmy Cliff had been taken into custody by the authorities. Jimmy was totally confused as to what was going on. That was a Friday evening, and he would endure those horrible conditions for 3 nights before he was taken to court on Monday morning to face the judge. It turned out that a very shady promoter had claimed that he had earlier agreed a deal with Jimmy's management to bring him to Nigeria some months before, but after getting paid, didn't turn up, only for Jimmy to come over and perform in Nigeria for a different promoter. But thank goodness, those claims were nonsense, and when the promoter couldn't provide any evidence that he had paid money, the judge got furious and the court would throw out the case on the spot and set Jimmy free immediately. He was of course traumatized badly by the whole experience, but at the same time highly relieved that the whole nightmare was over. But sadly, that also meant the end of the African leg of the House of Exile tour, and he would continue his incredible run of shows on other continents. Quite a disappointing introduction to the motherland for reggae's biggest artist in those days. And not just for Jimmy Cliff, mind you, but also for his Nigerian fans who were all heartbroken and embarrassed at the treatment that their idol had received in their country. And that incident also had pretty negative repercussions for Nigeria's global image, as it was reported that other A-list artists like Bob Marley and Michael Jackson avoided that West African country for fear of getting similar treatment. And Jimmy would pour all his feelings about the affair into a song titled The News that was released in 1975. And the song's subject matter made it a huge hit all over Africa and one of his best-selling singles on the continent. And the song would eventually form part of his next album titled Follow My Mind that also came out in the same year. And I've left a link to it in the description section below for you to listen to his 3-minute plus lamentation about the unfortunate affair. But despite his deplorable first experience on the motherland, it wouldn't dampen his enthusiasm as he would undertake many more trips to Africa over the years to enjoy the sights and culture, and also to perform in memorable concerts like his legendary performance in South Africa in 1980, where he played to a mixed-race audience and terrified the apartheid government on the day. Generally, he tells anyone who cares to listen that he's most content and happiest whenever he's in Africa, and that he's also a landowner in Liberia. The experiences of reggae artists in Africa since Jimmy Cliff made his landmark visits over there has been a mixed bag, with some like Sizzler and Luciano having a ball, while others have come face to face with the very foes and issues that they've always sang about in their music. But such, they say, is life. So there you have it. Thank you for watching the video today. Please leave a like, subscribe, and until next time, Jah bless.